to everyone in the voiceover world, or if you're not, welcome to Todd's Tips. This is where my dad, not your dad, talks about all things voiceover, small business, and tips and I wouldn't say tricks, but things that he teaches me, has kind of coached me into doing and forced me into, to help me out with my business. And it's kind of also a thing to throw up against your business. So sometimes, as we always do, we'll go to you. You can say whatever you want.
Sometimes I talk with people around our local community, and they watch Todd's Tips and say that they are able to apply some of the principles to their business or whatever. So maybe that'll be your case if you're not a voiceover talent. Maybe you're just kind of intrigued by being a voiceover talent. It is kind of a unique business, and so
I've got one thing to say.
Yeah.
Sorry for our background. I didn't change it yet, but it has something to do with our next podcast, the podcast before 51 and 52.
Silky.
Well, I just want, so people that don't know.
Why is that Bucky Badger
So it's
on
Wisconsin
there?
Badgers, the Division I college that's we're fans of. And we had a man who played basketball at our hometown to the high school that both of us and a lot of us graduated from. All of us have graduated from except Mom. And he went on to play for the Badgers. He is in the Hall of Fame, and he played overseas. Anyway, that's why that's there and not our logo right now. So back to Todd's Tips.
We'll get that taken care of, so don't let that bother you.
Yeah.
That's an explanation, though. Thank you for that. So we're talking about Todd's Tips, and kind of that's the umbrella idea here. That's the name of these videos. But what we've been doing for the last few months is talking about some do's and don'ts, especially as they relate to voiceover. Do's and don'ts. And as I promised right from the beginning, I always have Demond, our audiovisual producer, put these caveats right here so that you can read them and see them and see, just that I'm not forcing this down your throat. I'm not telling you have to do this or you're not going to be successful or you're not doing things right. I don't do that kind of stuff. Your business is your business. My business is my business. You run it the way you see fit. These are just do's and don'ts that I think are applicable if you take them with your situation and then just apply them to them. Maybe some of them won't even fit. Okay, but something to do is just to stop, think about them, say, maybe he's got a point there, and maybe you can apply it. So here's another one that we're doing in the do's and don'ts. This is a don't. I don't want or like VO gatekeepers. I'll call them gatekeepers telling me how to do my business. I don't like that. I don't want that. And I don't think you should want that either. Now, traditionally, when we think about gatekeepers, VO gatekeepers, or kind of old school people, they preach a certain, quote, gospel. You have to get our training or lots of training to get into VO. You have to get an agent, maybe live in a huge city like Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, whatever. You have to have our pro demos or someone we approve of, and you have to charge union rates, SAG-AFTRA, or GVAA rates, or rates that we at least okay. We say they're okay. But really, the new gatekeepers are basically the same as the old style. They're just a little different version of the same model. They got the same issues, I would call it. Gatekeepers say nowadays, with kind of the new technology and the way voiceover is nowadays, you can't work on freelance sites like Fiverr and Upwork and make any money. They call it hamburger money. You're just making hamburger money. You are just doing a hobby. In other words, you're not a pro. You're not a full-time pro. You can't do that if you're on Upwork or Fiverr. Or you can't be well thought of in the industry, especially by the cool kids, the in-group. Here's some other things that gatekeepers, the new gatekeepers, think and say. You must charge acceptable industry rates, or you are selfish and you're not helping the voiceover industry. Some even resort to name calling and intimidating. They kind of get in your face because you're hurting their industry. You're hurting their bottom line. Here's another thing they say. You can't use pay-to-plays or certain pay-to-plays. Of course, they'll tell you which pay-to-plays you can use and which ones are evil and you can't. And lastly, you must take their training courses, follow their podcasts, go to their conferences, or you can't be a real VO talent. You're kind of a rogue VO talent, just kind of a pretend, or somebody that's out there doing things that are negative and evil and wicked and hurting the VO industry. Now, just understand, I'm all for doing business right. But who are they? Who has a corner on the market of doing things right? I know there are things that are illegal. I don't do those. And certainly unethical in a real sense by just any standard. But these VO gatekeepers think they're right. I'm not so sure. I think I do a pretty good business. I have a pretty good business. And if these gatekeepers can prove to me that they can do as good or better than me, then I don't have a problem learning from anybody. And I learn things from them. But my point being is I don't want or like people, anybody, but especially I'll call them gatekeepers, telling me how to run my business. And you shouldn't either. There you go.
There you have it.
That's my tip for today.
Shout out to all the gatekeepers out there.
Yeah.
Those are just things, like you said, that you just don't know how somebody could ever make it in voiceover if they didn't go that way. It's a free market. Things change with technology. And to be doing it the old way or their way seems to be outdated. And I don't know how well you'd be able to do if you went that way. You know what I'm saying? What kind of swath would you be able to create if those people up there are at the top and they're saying you have to do what we did to get there? Mm-hmm. Now I understand that maybe they had to do other things that were more difficult, but that's just the way things go with technology. Some things get easier, you know?
Yeah.
So
I don't
got
know,
to adapt.
I don't know about these analogies. I've heard people use them, like, does anybody who's a gatekeeper for VO and wants the standards to be high use Uber? They're putting people out of business, taxi car drivers and taxi cab drivers. Mm-hmm. Or do they go to Walmart instead of Ma and Pa grocery store? Mm-hmm. Maybe they have an argument for that. Probably do. They probably thought about those things. For me, that's kind of the same. It's apples and apples. You say, boy, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that to the VO industry, yet you do it to other industries. So I don't know. Is that selfish, or is it more just that's how technology
to adapt and stuff,
that's how things happen. They just do. Are we still in horse and buggy, or are we driving cars and mass transit and stuff like that? So those are things that people can argue about, you can talk about. The point being is and this is the bottom line. Is if you want to be successful in business, and I count success as making money because you're providing a good product and you're servicing them and they're coming back, then show me that. Show me that you're doing as well or better than I am, then I'm all for hearing and learning. I want to hear and want to learn. Mm-hmm. I want to do better. Mm-hmm. But that's not that we don't see eye to eye on that. Yeah. So,
well, thank you. I don't know if anybody knew this, but if you don't watch our podcast, this has been 1 year that we've been doing these videos, Todd's Tips. You were doing Todd's Tips a little bit before.
This is almost 2 years, I think,
for you, but within the realm of our original father-son voiceover podcast, we've been doing it for 1 year. So we thank you guys for watching and supporting us.
They can ask questions.
You can ask questions.
We have a question, and we're glad to. You might have some feedback about this. I don't have the corner on everything. Maybe even this. Maybe I don't understand everything. I'm happy to be set straight.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got our 52nd episode coming up on this coming Wednesday, and if you're interested, you can check that out. Up next, we've got our numbers, so we'll see you there. You can see how I did, how Dad did, and how the VOMP team did this week in direct email marketing and voiceover in general. So we'll see you there.